Coming up on this episode, I talk with Dave from Power Progression about slowing down in life and just how a little stop to smell the roses now and then might be the thing that you need. So let's get into it. What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Perspective Chasing Podcast, and I'm your host, John. On today's episode, I want to talk about slowing down. We've got Old Faithful back, Dave from Power Progression. Don't forget to check him out on his golf channel. Trust me, it's highly addictive. But on this episode, we want to talk about slowing down, and quite appropriately so. I don't think there's anybody I can talk about slowing down with more. Bit of background, we both kind of took the night off yesterday and freaking just chilled, which is a rarity and quite appropriate for today's episode. But the biggest thing is you can't ever get caught up in slowing down or speeding up. So you got to know when to take your foot off the gas and take that breath. Like yesterday we was chilling out without pretty much a care in the world. Yet today we both woke up with work on our mind. And to me that's a healthy dose of slowing down. Again, everything in life comes down to moderation. And we've had our scenarios before when either one of us have overindulged in slowing down. And lessons were learned, to say the least. But it's definitely something I think a lot on these days. And I know it's something that you've kind of been thinking about a lot in your own life.
Massively, man, massively. It's important. You want to be 110 miles an hour all the time, but it's just not sustainable. It's not possible. And we all want to do things, we all want to achieve things, and we all want it yesterday instead of 10 years down the line. But the simple truth is it takes time, you know what I mean? And I think the big thing for me at the moment is, as hard as I'm working, there's that reality that there's still a life to live. And if you don't slow down even for a couple of minutes here and there, how are you actually going to savor anything in your life?
And this is the thing, and obviously, like we often speak about, because I'm a dad and I've got a little one, and that, like, I often have that constant reminder of like, hey, things change real fast, so enjoy the little moments.
Oh yes.
But for so many people, they don't necessarily have that, or they don't stop to take that in necessarily. Like, life really does push you from pillar to post, and most people are just trying to keep up.
Yep.
So actually being able to take that time to slow down and pick up a hobby or build a new friendship or whatever it is, like, that to me can only add value to your life.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the friendship one, it depends on where that friendship goes. You have to be very careful about those kind of things, I believe. But at the same time, if you don't take the chance, you're never going to know, are you? You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of key thing about slowing down is a good thing, it's a healthy thing. But don't let it become a full-time distraction.
100%.
So, picking up a hobby is always a good thing. You need something different to break your own cycles from whatever you're doing. You need something to look forward to. But in terms of like friendships and stuff like that, I'm all for them. Like, I have some very, very good friends. I'm very blessed. And I'm absolutely open to meeting new people and seeing where that goes, and if that becomes a really good friendship and whatnot. But you do need to know if they're good for you or not. You know what I mean? Like, you still have to have your own principles.
I mean, obviously that goes on to a massive tangent and everything else.
We'll come back to that in 3 months.
Even still, like, slowing down gives you that chance to meet people. Let me put it to you in another form, because I think you're taking it a bit more directly. So friendships, when you slow down, that friendship can build a network. That's a whole different ball game opposed to a personal friendship, a new best mate, a new freaking bum chum, whatever it is.
Bum chum.
So having that time to slow down and say, cool, it's not just me and my mission constantly on the go. When you do slow down, go out for a night drinking or whatever it is that you do to chill out, and you meet those people and you say like, oh, this is actually what I'm working on. Again, sometimes you're going to meet a few bloody people or whatever else. Like, there's going to be a few dull blades out there. But at the same time, you might meet one person that you absolutely click with every 10 times you slow down.
Yeah, I think the key thing actually is, for me, is if you don't actually slow down, you're not giving your brain a chance to actually open itself up for something that could potentially be amazing, or a network, or an opportunity, whatever it may be, right? Is if you're always going 110 miles an hour, you're not going to see anything. Everything's a blur, right?
So it's like, I could take this on a few different rabbit holes here, but it was like we were saying yesterday about closing doors, and like you can only listen to one person at a time. So now, if you're always leaving those doors open and you're constantly slowing down, leaving your life open to new people and everything else, bad thing. You're going to catch a draft, winter's going to come, and you're going to freeze.
You end up with a stiff neck.
But at the same time, sometimes you've got to open a window. Sometimes you've got to close it. That's just life development and everything else. And if you again, like, I'd say what you choose to do when you slow down probably defines you quite a lot. So like, for me, slowing down is taking a walk in the park with my daughter and listening to a bit of music and just disconnecting. That's not everybody's idea of slowing down. Somebody else's idea of slowing down could be, I don't know, going fishing, or just going for a long drive, or going on holiday and sinking their toes in some sand, or whatever it is. Everybody is calibrated to a different standard in life, and everybody gets their kicks off of different things. Do you know what I mean? But we're all sold the same idea of happiness. It's not until
Wait for you to stop. Excuse me. I am under the weather at the moment.
That's last night coming back to say, "Yo, buddy."
Jesus Christ.
I was just about to tie that in so nicely, like a little bow. Where was I? But that's, yeah, so everybody is sold the same idea of happiness and everything else, but realistically, everyone's idea of happiness is going to be different. So it's not until you actually slow down and figure out what makes you tick, what things you harmonize with, what you enjoy. Not everybody's going to be mesmerized by a bird song. Some people are going to be completely irritated. Not everybody's going to enjoy sitting down and having a couple of beers. Do you know what I mean? Everybody has these different things that make them tick. But yet, life seems to shout at you, this is what will make you happy. And then people listen to that opposed to listening to themselves. It's not until you slow down and kind of shut out that noise and say, well, what does John or what does Dave enjoy? What does whoever want to do with their life? Like, if you don't slow down and shut out that noise and actually listen to what makes you you, you'll forever be pinballed around looking for that idea of somebody else's happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with that. That's the key thing, isn't it? Is about slowing down. It's that short window of time to actually just allow yourself to enjoy something. Like, for me, it's kind of like a mini factory reset. Everything's chaos, whether it's good or bad, right? It's always just too fast. And that's why I keep saying about like that 110 mile an hour thing. If you've ever been in a car going that fast, you ain't seen much.
Nope. Never done such a thing. This is out on the internet and I'm a law-abiding citizen.
But it's the same thing for life, right? Like, if you're going that fast physically, if you're going that fast mentally, you're not seeing anything. So you need to...
Theoretically, you see very fast blurs, but no one specific thing.
Now, you can imagine that with a car, right? Imagine that with people. Imagine that with what you actually do on a daily basis. Because it's one and the same.
Okay, let me run with your analogy, right? Because that is a very good one. Now, let's say hypothetically I was at one point in my life doing a substantial speed down the road. And I've done that for an extended period of time. Your focus hones in on so much, no matter what chaos is outside of life. Like, trust me, anything could have happened within recent history, but you push your mind and your awareness to that extreme, you genuinely do get tunnel vision to the point where everything fades and the only thing that exists is the road. That's okay for a while, but the fatigue that takes on you, physically, mentally, even emotionally, like, imagine to put an analogy on an analogy, imagine putting a dam in a river. The amount of pressure that dam is going to hold. So when you're shutting out all of these emotions and you're putting yourself in a heightened state of my attention has to be here and everything else is dialed in, that tunnel vision, well, that tunnel has pressure all around it. Now, there's only so much that you can do. There's only so much you can hold that attention. Running at that level for however long, like, again, it's why like Formula One drivers and everything else are treated in such high regard, like to put their bodies through all of that, like not just the G-force, but the awareness of the world moving around them that fast, their reflexes, everything that they need. Sorry. Good?
Yeah.
Everything they need around those scenarios is heightened. And very much like a chef's palate. Like, no Michelin star chef wants to have their mouth torched out by spicing hot chili or whatever else, because it's just going to ruin their palate. You've got a life palate in that sense. Do you know what I mean? So, like, if you was to then have overexposure to any one thing, it taints your palate.
Yeah, it also leaves you being very one-dimensional.
But then that kind of ties in quite nicely to that, the old saying of variety is the spice of life. Again, just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, experience different things.
Jeez.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Experience different things, slow down and find out what you resonate with, what makes you tick and what you genuinely enjoy.
Definitely. Like, the one thing people need to remember is whatever your mission in life is, right? Whatever your ambition is. If you get to your end goal without slowing down at some point, what are you going to achieve? Because you might achieve the goal, but are you actually going to be happy? Are you going to have any memories of that journey you took except for the blood, sweat, and tears you put in? Because I'm pretty much going to guarantee that that's not going to make you happy. I know for a fact it won't make me happy. When I reach my end goals and I have everything that I want in this life, if I don't have any little memories along the way to savor, what was the point?
Well, I think that goes into the thing of like, everybody needs their why. So if I was John the Genie and I granted every wish that you wanted, what would you have left to want for?
Exactly.
So you'd have no why in life. So everybody always needs that why, and it will forever be a moving goalpost.
100%. Like, as much as you want to strive for the future, sometimes it's okay to embrace the present.
I always refer to it as like a kind of kaleidoscope of life, where it's like you've got to look inwards and outwards, and they kind of intersect and intertwine with each other. So, like I said a long time ago, about like, what are you doing for you in 6 months? Where it's like, you do have to kind of live like that. You also have to live for what you're doing for you in 10 years, i.e. like, if you're abusing your body and this, that, and everything else, that's likely going to pay on in the future, whatever else. So, see what you're doing, see what you're setting up, and see what you're doing for your future self. But then you can't neglect your immediate self, because if you neglect your immediate self, you'll never get to the future self.
Very true.
Put it as like a squirrel getting ready for winter. If they stored away every nut that they found and ate none of them while they was gathering them all up, they would starve before winter ever came.
Yep.
Whereas if they store 3, eat 2. If they store 1, eat 1. As long as there's a balance between the two, you take care of the immediate self and the future self. And when you're going through life and you've got all of these other stimuli going, do this to be happy, do that to be happy, 6-minute abs, become a millionaire overnight, play the lottery, whatever it is, all of these things are just distractions, just turning your head. Like, imagine a Formula One driver, to bring it back, had freaking pop-up people around the track every now and then or whatever, just drawing their attention. Like, they're not going to be able to stay with that hyper focus. The whole thing is they need that tunnel vision, and everything around them is to heighten that tunnel vision. Do you know what I mean? Is to build up so they can do those mad endurance things, opposed to everybody be tight into golf. You're lining up your shot for golf and somebody goes, "Yay, go Dave!" You're trying to line up. You're trying to hone in. You're trying to gauge how far you've got to go. You're trying to take in your surrounding. Need that outside stimuli.
No.
But that's what's happening with people in their life. Like when we was talking about shows and everything else, like for me, watching shows and playing games, that's a massive way to disconnect. Sometimes it's needed. Sometimes that's part of slowing down. It's disconnected and just tapping into a game for a while or a series for a while. But again, it's moderating it. It's being aware of it. It's going, cool, I'm taking my foot off the gas, opposed to, well, this is me now. So I had this thing a few episodes back where I spoke about this 5 to 10 rule.
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine you wake up one day late for work. You don't really think anything of it. You had a bad day. If you woke up for work late 5 days in a row, your idea of yourself starts to change. If you woke up late for work 10 days in a row, your idea of yourself starts to solidify.
Yep.
That happens with everybody. Realistically, not too much has changed about yourself. You're still the same person. You're still capable of getting up early. But because of your recent experience, you now convince yourself that you are that person. Now it becomes harder to break that mold of yourself. So now if you slow down for 5-10 days in a row, you are that person that moves slow. You've redefined yourself, opposed to taking your foot off the gas for a day, maybe a weekend, and then jumping back on. Again, it's moderation. Don't be the squirrel that plans for winter and stars in summer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, right? It's little circuit breaks, little factory resets, man. Sometimes, whatever it is for you, remember, sometimes just socializing with people is that kind of fresh air you need to reset your cycle. Maybe it's just actually watching a TV show on your own. Like, it could be whatever it is. It's about the present moment for a second.
Well, I think as well, sometimes it's a different itch to scratch. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes a show will scratch that itch, and it is just, I need some long time.
Yep.
But then sometimes you need a good back and forth.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need like a blowout. Sometimes you just need to go out with some good people and just get hammered. Like, it could be whatever. Like, the key is just making sure that it doesn't become a destructive habit. You know, like that 5 to 10 thing you just said is a really accurate depiction of that. If you watch a TV show on a Sunday because, hey, I've done everything this week and I just need to slow down, sweet. Do it for 5 days in a row. It's a different reality now, isn't it? Do it for 10. What we doing? You know what I mean? And you can apply it to anything that you do.
But then, so let's roll that forward, like especially in terms of like a series. Now, I think this is going to be something that everybody can relate to. How many times have you just got into a series? It becomes part of your regular pattern, and then it ends. And now you've got that pattern, but nothing to fill it with. So straight away you're scurrying for the next easiest thing to fill it with, and thus feeds the cycle. And then you become that person that, yeah, I binge watch whatever series, this, that, and everything else. But it's, again, if it's that easy to fall into, it's also that easy to fall out of. Now, I don't have no subscriptions or anything these days, and I don't look for them because of that. I don't pay attention to what's coming out and everything else. And if anything, I look at that as like massively shifting my direction because it's not of easy access to me anymore. So like I would have to sign up, and that's like, whereas the whole idea of a lot of apps and a lot of things that grab your attention is path of least resistance. So if they recommend a new series as soon as you finish the next one, no wonder you jump into it, and then that's taken up all of your time, and then you've spent your time observing instead of creating.
Very true.
But then, like, this is going to sound like a crackers thing, but stick with me. We live in reality, but what you're observing is a fictional reality, but it imposes on your actual reality. So the scenarios that a lot of people are watching when they're watching shows and everything else, they're all make-believe. They have no intrinsic value on life. Like, you might learn some indirect things or kind of live vicariously through the characters, but in terms of your actual life, it doesn't really pay on to that thing. Like, most people's idea of slowing down is going to be like a guilty pleasure type of thing. Nobody's sitting down to watch a documentary or do you know what I mean? Like, they want that sugary fix for their brain kind of thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What? Are you gonna?
Yeah.
So when you're constantly looking for that, and they've made the path to it as easy as possible, it's easy to just keep getting nudged into it. And before you know it, one series turns into 2 series, turns into 10 series, turns into a year of your life. Like, I genuinely thought about it the other day. I've watched multiple series that have like 5 to 10 seasons in them. And I was actually on the phone to you, and I've done like the quick maths or whatever else. I was like, wow, one season's like 15 days or 15 hours or whatever it was. But that's just wasted time. And the amount I could get done in that time these days is insane.
Proper. Like, properly insane. And I think that's the other thing to it, right? It is good to slow down, but are there some really good habits you can fit into slowing down? And that's one thing that I'm becoming really self-aware of myself, right? Is, yeah, I will have a couple of nights out here and there. And like, coming and chilling with my bro last night, fantastic stuff. Yeah, I will watch a TV show now and then. But what good habits can you fit into slowing down? Like, how often do you just sit there with your own thoughts? Because that's slowing down. Because you're not doing anything. You're just sitting with yourself for 5 minutes. How am I? What's going on? What are we doing? Like, you know what I mean? Am I breathing? Like, it sounds daft, but have you just sat there and done that? Probably not. You know what I mean? And like, that's a really integral part of slowing down too, is the self-development, the self-analysis, the self-healing if you need it.
But that's the kind of thing which is like, I was kind of getting at, is with all of these external stimuli, it's hard to actually hear that.
Of course it is. If you go home at night, like, most people go home after a 9 to 5 or whatever they do, and they'll either grab a drink out of the fridge or something like that, sit over a beer or a glass of wine, energy drink if you're a nutter like me, and they'll put the TV on. And I get that, man. That's their way of unwinding and de-stressing. I fully get that. I guess it's conventional, right? But when you lead up to going to sleep, how many people fall asleep with things on in the background? How many people go to sleep with their phone in their hand, reading a book, whatever it is, right? The fact that now in my head I think the book would be healthier than the phone says it all. Because realistically, there shouldn't be anything. You want your brain to start winding down so that you can just go to sleep. And like, that's a perfect time to take those 5 minutes and go, how am I? What's going on? You know what I mean? But we still don't do it.
Do you know why? I reckon for most people it's because the answer is not good. And to try get to bed with the thought of not being good, that's hard to get to sleep, because then you start going down the rabbit hole of all of the things that you've got going on, all of the problems and everything else.
Boy, that's a whole different episode right there, I'm telling you.
And this is the thing. So I think that kind of maybe puts a nice kind of bookend to this kind of subject, in a sense of like, you got to look for when it's appropriate to slow down. So again, like, if you are just about to go to sleep, it's probably not best to deep dive your problems.
No.
So it probably is better for you to do that maybe earlier in the day when you've got a thing and you can kind of like work through it through the day or whatever else. But then, like, and I'm so guilty of this, most people don't have that time in the beginning of the day. They freaking get dragged up by alarms and freaking roll out of bed and they go. But just having that consciousness, just taking that thing of like, when was the last time I checked in on myself, and again, you slowly bring it into reality. Simply just bringing up that question, that's enough to slowly add it into the mix. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's enough to start the ball rolling in that sense.
Definitely.
But I think that's kind of a nice one to wrap it up on. A kind of, like I say, nicely bookends. Although it is important to slow down, it's also important to think about when you're slowing down. Again, like if you're in the middle of a race or you're in the middle of a high demand situation, you go, I need 5 minutes or I need 5 days. That may not be the best situation. Like sometimes you've got to grit your teeth and push through and wait to the ideal time to slow down. And sometimes you've got to make that ideal time to slow down. But it's about being realistic with yourself and looking for it, where you can find it, and just being aware of it in general and its importance as well, because it's a lot of people think that when you slow down, that's taken away from the rest of life and everything else, but it's not. It's making time for you. Is there anything more you've got to say about slowing down before I wrap this up with a seed?
I think we wrapped it up pretty solidly.
Nice. That's surprising. Right. The seed for this episode is going to be, look where you can slow down. Again, it might be that you live a hectic life. Most of us do, or at least we convince ourselves that our lives are hectic as anything and we have very little time. But look for where you can consciously take that 5 minutes. And again, it starts slow, just like the 5 to 10 rule. Build a minute over time where you just go, am I okay today? How do I feel and why? And slowly build that awareness. It's not going to change overnight. It's not going to fix everything overnight. But planting that seed, asking that question, opening that door every so often just to see if something flies through or there's something there, that's going to be a great benefit to you and hopefully help you understand yourself more. I think that's what we're all after at the end of the day in this whole thing we call life. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. Don't forget to check out Power Progression and his golfing antics. You might even see me on there now and then. But all the best, and I'll catch you on the next one.